Are you coming to the tree where they strung up a man? They say murder three. Strange things that happen here. How stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree?
Coffee. Without it, we would never have had the Industrial Revolution. We'd all be still living in Europe in mud huts. Here in Laredo, we have the Organic Man Coffee Trike. 4501 McPherson, the best coffee on the planet. If you can't get to Laredo, you can order from the Organic Man Coffee Trike.shop. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Chris James. Australia has moved into first place, followed closely by Iceland. Canada is coming in third, with New Zealand in fourth. Denmark is trying to move up on the pack. The Organic Man Coffee Trike is going to move. They'll be closing their little shop there on McPherson and moving an entire 50 feet to the other side of the parking lot, a bigger shop. That way they'll have indoor places where you can sit down and drink a cup of the best coffee on the planet. A robot is a piece of software or program designed to perform tasks automatically. It also refers to a machine that can perform a task. On the internet, a web robot or bot describes a spider. A spider is a program or a script written to browse the World Wide Web in a systematic manner for the purpose of indexing websites. A robot is also described as being a bot. Many folks say that Karl Čapek, a Czech novelist and playwright, came up with the word robot while working on a play back in 1920. Others say his brother Joseph came up with the word. I wasn't there, and neither were the people debating who invented the word. So we could just say that some guy named Čapek in the Czech Republic came up with the word, one of the two brothers. A robot comes from the Czech noun robota, meaning labor. The play was about a machine, or a group of machines, being developed to perform work usually done by people. A simple work that needed to be done to make life easier for others. Things like cleaning and chopping wood. Ancient Hebrews wrote about a person made out of dirt and clay called a golem. The golem was created to help with menial labor. The power source was a scroll inscribed by a rabbi with instructions on what to do. In every account, the golem would wind up running amok. It was kind of like a computer today. You had to tell the machine exactly what to do, exactly how to do it, and when to stop. If sent to chop wood, the golem would keep chopping until the entire forest was down. Around 400 BC, the Greek mathematician Archytas of Tarentum built a mechanical bird to try to better understand how birds could fly. There's no account of whether the bird was able to fly, but it did flap its wings on its own. In ancient China, they had a number of highly advanced robots that could sing, dance, and act out the requirements of a servant. They could perform all kinds of tasks. Some of these robots possessed lifelike organs, bones, muscle, joints, skin, even hair. King Lan Ling, who lived during the Northern Qi dynasty, that's 550 to 570 AD, invented a robot that could dance. The features were those of somebody not from China or the Far East. Why he designed it that way, well, nobody really knows. Maybe he figured it would look more exotic. There are numerous documents telling about this dancing machine. The robot would also bow to visitors and offer them drinks. The writings from the time tell about what the machine could do, but there are no drawings or schematics showing how it was able to do them. Around 560 AD, a monk named Xing Zhao built a mechanical boat that would sail over to Emperor Wu Qing. When the emperor lifted a wine cup from the boat's deck, the wooden sailor would clap its hands, and music would come from inside the boat that would entertain the royal and his entourage. As long as the cup contained wine, the boat would stay in front of the emperor. As soon as he finished, the boat would sail away so it could be refilled by the servant. In 618 to 907, the Tang dynasty, a craftsman would build machines that would perform menial tasks for the royal court. Royals and the super rich would hire dressers so they could get into their super elaborate outfits. That's why women's clothing have the buttons on the left instead of the right. A men's shirt button left over right, and women's are right over left. The dresser had to be able to button things without getting them screwed up. Some outfits had dozens of buttons, and the rich folks didn't want to look like the village idiot. A skilled designer and inventor built a robot dresser for the Queen of China. It consisted of a huge mirror with arms that would move about putting her clothes on or taking them off. The queen also had a robot handmaid that would help her take a bath. I can't imagine living like that, having people around that did everything for you. What a lot of folks don't know is back then, the folks doing all that menial work for the elites didn't have rooms of their own in the palace. Sometimes they would just sleep under the stairs or in a closet or anywhere on the floor that they could stretch out. If the servants did a good job and kept their employer happy, they might get a wad of cash once they're too old to work or after their bosses have died. And sometimes they just had to go look for a job somewhere else. Mechanical engineer Yin Wenling created a wooden man and woman. The man would serve wine to guests, and it would propose toasts to each member of the court. If a person finished their drink, he would refill the cup. If there was still wine in the cup, he would stand by waiting for the guest to finish. The woman would play a flute, and she would sing. If a guest wasn't drinking enough wine, she would focus her attention on that person and sing songs about how much better they would feel if they finished their drink. Both robots were made entirely of wood. No one knows what the power source was. There are reports of all kinds of mechanical creatures, from cats to dragons. They were mostly for the entertainment of the real rich and the royals. According to researchers, Yin Weiling was known to have created mechanical birds, phoenixes, cranes, crows, and magpies. Though made of wood, some of the ornithologic prototypes could be made to pretend to eat, drink, chirp, and warble like real birds. He is reported to have installed mechanical devices inside some of the birds that would drive their wings as if they were flying. He is reported to also have recreated a mechanical cat that would sit on the shelf and push things off. Okay, maybe that was just a bit of a stretch, but if you have cats, you'll know what I mean. In the 15th century, Leonardo da Vinci designed and built a cart that would run around without anyone or anything pulling it. You could just sit in it and it would drive you around town. Around 1495, Da Vinci published designs for a mechanical knight. He was fascinated by human anatomy and he spent hours dissecting corpses, which at the time was illegal. If he'd have been caught, they would have nailed him to a stake and set him on fire. Although he still did it anyway. He would dissect the bodies of dead people and try and figure out how they worked. This gave him an understanding of how muscles worked with bones in order to move the human body. He reasoned that these same principles could be applied to a machine. Da Vinci actually built the robotic knight. It was used primarily for entertainment at parties that were being thrown by his patron, Lodovico Sforza. Whatever became of this automation is unknown. It may have been put away in some closet or cabinet somewhere and eventually turned to a pile of rust, or some rich guy might have it squirreled away in his storeroom, dragging it out once in a while to try and impress his other rich friends. Look what I got. In the early 1700s, Jacques de Vaucanson made several automated creatures. The one most talked about he built in 1739. It looked like a duck, and it quacked like a duck. It had wings that had feathers. Once the main spring was wound up, the duck would swim around and it would dunk its head under the water, just like a real duck. The most interesting or bizarre thing about this robot was it would poop. People would hold out a handful of corn, and the duck would waddle over using its bill. It would eat the corn. Once inside, the food would pass through a series of pipes, all laid out as if mimicking the insides of a real duck. After a few minutes, the duck would drop a pile of poo on the ground. Because of this final act of mechanical wonder, the machine became known simply as the pooping duck. As if there isn't enough bird poo on the ground already, this guy had to build a robot to do it. In 1773, Pierre Jacquet Droz, a Swiss watchmaker, built the drawing boy. This machine was able to draw or write out any letter from the English alphabet using a quill pen. The robot had no power source. It ran on springs, gears, and wheels, just like a watch. An old-time watch with a wind-up device, not these digital things today. I remember when the first digital watches came out, I actually was foolish enough to buy one. You couldn't just look at the watch and see what time it was. You had to push a button so that it would tell you what time it was. So therefore, it took both hands to see what time it was, and those things were expensive. I don't know why I bought it. I guess I was young and foolish at the time. Hopefully, I'm not old and foolish today. Isaac Asimov created a famous 3 laws of robotics in the early 1940s. Law number 1, a robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. 2, a robot must obey orders given it by a human being except where such orders would conflict with the first law. And 3, a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law. There are folks today who actually believe these robot laws are real. They think a robot is unable to do or allow harm to come to a human. Before becoming a comedy actor, Leslie Nielsen was in some science fiction movies. One of his first was called Forbidden Planet 1956. Robbie the Robot was a main character. He made a number of subsequent appearances in science fiction movies and TV programs, which gave him the distinction as being the hardest working robot in Hollywood. A 1965 TV show, Lost in Space, featured a robot that hung out with Will Smith. I knew I was going to say that. William Robinson. I don't know why I get those two names confused. Will Robinson. Danger, Will Robinson. Danger. You might remember, or you may have heard that from somebody. The robot was officially named the B9 Class M3 General Utility Non-Theorizing Environmental Control Robot. No wonder they didn't call him by his name. In the show, he was just called Robot. Occasionally, the robot was addressed as B9 or the Robinson robot. The production team called the robot Rodney or Blinky. He had a whole bunch of lights that were constantly on and off. There was a guy inside both of these robots that actually made them function. Although if you were a 10-year-old kid watching TV or movies back then, you'd swear these robots were real. A Doctor Who 1977, Tom Baker acquires a robot dog named K9. If you watch the show, you'd know he actually stole the thing from the person that made it. He was always acquiring things. Originally, the robot dog was only supposed to be in one episode. But the production team thought that K9 would appeal to the younger kids and it would boost their ratings. Like any good TV show, there was a spin-off called the Sarah Jane Adventures. It was Sarah Jane Smith, who was one of Doctor Who's companions, and she wound up hanging on to K9. Over time, people became comfortable with the idea of robots moving around amongst us, functioning on their own. It was almost as if Hollywood and the BBC were trying to convince people that robots were a good thing. The first modern robots were developed the second part of the 20th century, but people's fascination with replacing human effort and automating tasks date back to the ancient world. In 1979, the Robot Institute of America described a robot officially as a programmable, multifunctional manipulator designed to move material, parts, tools, or specialized devices through a various programmed motions for the performance of a variety of tasks. Wow. While they don't always look like a human form, a robot is an automatically operating machine that can replace human effort. In 2021, robots were quickly becoming an indispensable part of life. From massive industrial robots to cultivating acres of land, to micro-robots that assist doctors in surgery. Robotic technologies add value to human life in countless ways. At least that's what their manufacturers say. You would almost think the Black Plague of 2020 was a way of ushering in robots to allow people to stay home and watch TV. Stay safe, don't leave the house. Who needs employees when you can have robots? The global robotic technology market size is expected to soar to over $189 billion by 2027. By 2030, 20 million manufacturing jobs will be turned over to robots, putting a whole lot of folks out of work. The elites keep saying these are jobs that nobody wants to do. If you have a job, whether you like it or not, you're still getting a paycheck. If you lose your job to a robot, how are you going to eat? Daniel Theobald, the founder and chief innovation officer of Vecna Robotics, believes that robots will be central to the prosperity chain, which he describes as humans create technology, technology creates prosperity, prosperity is shared, human society thrives and creates more technology. Apparently, he doesn't know any elites. How the common person is going to benefit from any of this, he never explains. A person working in an assembly line gets replaced by a machine so the owners of the company can make bigger profits. Now what? The big plan is to send that person to be trained to work in some other kind of high-tech position. Let's say building robots. No, they're going to use robots to build other robots. How about maintaining the robots? Once again, they'll have maintenance robots that fix other robots. Maybe that out of a job person could get a job inventing new robots. If there were 1,000,000 people all trying to invent a new, better robot, what are we going to do with millions or billions of robots? When you can't turn around with bumping into one, I think we've overdone it. Industrial robots were mounted in one place. They didn't need to move around because things that they needed to work on came to them by way of a conveyor belt. Recently, researchers have used adaptive learning techniques to train robots to walk, even run like humans, and they respond to falling down. A robot that can trip and get back on its feet. A robot that can learn from its mistakes. A team of engineers and researchers from UC Berkeley and Carnegie Mellon University, as well as Facebook AI, are training legged robots to walk like humans on difficult terrain. The robot uses rapid motor adoption technology to adjust itself during a fall and then get back up on its feet. It can fall and get back up, unlike some humans. It uses data from sensors and accelerometers to read the surroundings and avoid bumping or crashing into obstacles. The creators believe that this improvement in RMA will be a viable new strategy to solve the eternal dilemma of locomotive robots. Cassie is the first bipedal robot that is capable of running long distances on a single charge. The robot was developed at the Oregon State University, where experts combined the concept of robotic control, machine learning, and biomechanics to achieve a robot that can walk, climb stairs, and race, even on unfriendly terrain. It uses a reinforcement learning algorithm to learn how to sprint. Cassie caught a lot of attention after running a 5K on a single charge in 53 minutes. Developers believe that Cassie will be employed in the logistics industry for delivery and warehouse assistance in massive retail companies like Amazon to meet the global demand for products and service. 1.3 million people working at Amazon might need to start looking for a new job real soon. The space race is getting hugely popular these days, with billionaires like Richard Branson and Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk competing to explore space. Stabilizing at low gravity conditions, dealing with celestial matters, and surviving hazardous environments are still challenging to humans. Researchers think that robots will be a lifesaver for space studies and are training them for research and even building space colonies without humans needing to travel. I don't quite understand. Let's send a bunch of robots to Mars and they can colonize Mars, and then somehow we, the Earthlings, will get credit for it? You don't think the robots would say, nope, Mars, that's ours now? The Space Bach, developed by ETH Zurich, is a quadruped robot trained to walk in space using natural tactics. The developer's main aim is to test the feasibility of Spacebach for dynamic locomotion in low gravity. The legged robot, lightweight features and flexibility like a cat make it ideal for smooth space exploration, as it can move more effectively than a wheeled robot. Another spectacular robot is the Astronomus Spot, or the AWSPOT, which is all set to join the Mars exploration project by NASA. Designed and developed by Boston Dynamics, the SpotBot is getting trained to find the possibility of life on Mars or other planets. Now think about it. You're sitting there on Mars, is whatever kind of a building you live in, and all of a sudden a robot comes rolling up to your front door. Are you going to talk to it, or are you going to shoot at it? Maybe the Martians will think the Earthlings are trying to take over their planet. It would be kind of the same as if you're sitting here at home on Earth and a robot came up to your front door and tried to come in. Wouldn't you think you're being attacked? But that's NASA for you. Just picture this. In 1969, a robot steps off the lunar lander and says, "That's one small step for robot, one huge step for all of robots." I just insert Mars instead of the moon. Will the people of Earth have the same feelings of fulfillment as some machine makes the first step as they did when Neil Armstrong stepped on the moon? Will it have the same euphoric feeling? The use of robotic technology equally boosts productivity and enhances profitability. At the same time, it can eliminate labor-intensive tasks that could pose some threat to humans' physical well-being and result in accidents or injuries. Insurance companies will love that one. Just who is going to get these enhanced profits? If you don't own the company, you can remove your name from the list of folks about to get rich. Do y'all remember NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement? The folks in Washington told us everyone was going to benefit from this treaty. The U.S. and Canada have lost thousands of jobs because of NAFTA. Mexico is trapped in a severe economic crisis in which workers bear the largest burden as their working conditions worsen. The U.S.-Mexico border was a health and environmental disaster before NAFTA took place, when it was signed in 1994. Today, the border area is worse because of additional health and environmental problems brought on by NAFTA. In 1993, the year before NAFTA was passed, the U.S. had a $1.7 billion trade surplus with Mexico. This meant that Mexicans were buying more American goods than Americans were buying Mexican goods. After NAFTA, the situation was reversed. American businesses fled to Mexico in search of lower wages and lax labor and environmental regulations. They produced goods in Mexico to sell to the U.S. Our trade surplus with Mexico became a $16.2 billion deficit. In late 1980 and early 1990, a massive wave of plant closures and layoffs hit Canada. Tens of thousands of workers lost what had once been a secure and decent job. NAFTA added to the high Canadian unemployment rate and job insecurity. Similar to the United States, after NAFTA, Canada lost jobs as its trade deficit with Mexico grew from $2.9 billion to $4.3 billion. Also, like its trade deficit with Mexico grew, the United States and Canadian workers' pay has not kept up with inflation. Wages have been much slower to rise when compared to gains in worker productivity. After NAFTA went into effect, Mexico fell into serious social, political, and economic crisis. The Mexican peso lost 50% of its value. The government was nearly bankrupt. An armed uprising in southern Mexican state of Chiapas highlighted the country's economic, geographic, and racial divisions. Political assassinations and allegations of corruption continued to undermine faith in the political system at the highest levels of government. They would they would put somebody in office as police chief in Nuevo Laredo, and the next day they'd be shot. They'd put somebody else in that position, and the next day their car would blow up. It was pretty ugly over there. The politicians are still trying to convince us that NAFTA is a good thing. It's good for all those folks who own giant companies that moved to Mexico so the owners could save on wages and benefits. These are the same bunch of politicians lauding the benefits of robot technology for the good of mankind. It's for our own good. As more jobs are being taken over by robots, more people will find themselves without any means of making a living. The folks in charge are pushing for robot trucks. Self-driving 18-wheelers that will put 3.5 million truck drivers on unemployment. It's for our own good, they say. Look at all the vehicle accidents being caused by humans behind the wheel. A funny thing about vehicle accidents involving 18-wheelers, 95% of them are caused by the four-wheel vehicles on the road. As people are being removed so robots can take over, what will the truck drivers do to earn money? Oh, well, they can get a job working in the warehouse. No, that's going to be done by robots. They can dispatch the robot trucks. No, that's going to be done by a computer. Just about the only job that will be available will be running for office and putting some other politician out of a job. As more and more people are squeezed out of work, nobody is working on creating new ways for people to earn a living. They talk about better jobs in technology, but nobody is creating these jobs. Billionaires are buying up farmland at a ridiculous rate. Robots are already out there to plow and cultivate the fields. The crops can be harvested, processed, and distributed by robots. The stores are getting fewer and fewer humans working in them. That self-scan checkout was just the first step. And next, there will be robots moving products from the robot trucks to the shelves. Those personal shoppers that we see at H-E-B, I don't know if you have those in the rest of the country, but you go into the grocery store and there's these people that are actually shopping for somebody else. Well, eventually they're going to be replaced by a robot. We hear it over and over. A big mart is reducing overhead to save you money. The humans get laid off, yet the prices never seem to go down. In fact, they go up. The cost never goes down, no matter how many humans are removed from the equation. The profits all go into some gazillionaire's bank account or some politician's pocket. Without jobs, how are folks going to pay for anything? The government will only hand out that free money, as they like to call it, for so long. How many people out there know how to grow a crop to feed themselves or their family? How do you go about growing food when some gazillionaire owns all of the land? There are noises coming from parts of our country saying we, the people, shouldn't be allowed to own property. The GMO crops are designed so that the seeds will not germinate. If you eat an apple and you pluck the seeds out of that apple and you plant them in the ground, you would expect an apple tree to grow, but not those seeds, they don't grow. You have to keep buying new seeds from the companies if you want to plant anything. There are what are known as heirloom seed companies. I like to buy from Baker's Creek. They have seeds that have not been tampered by the folks in the white lab coats. You have to know how to grow a crop, what to plant, and where, as well as having a reliable source of water. I planted a whole bunch of tomato plants here in Laredo, and it got so hot that they didn't produce anything. They grew big and green, and then they turned brown and died, and I got 2 tomatoes from 14 plants. It's not just me. All the other people I know that planted tomatoes in Laredo also said no tomatoes. Something the machine, oh yes, you have to have a reliable source of water, like your own well, something that the machines can't turn off. You'll need some way of keeping the bugs and the animals away from eating everything when you get a chance. We have a possum that lives in our backyard, and he used to like to eat anything that I was growing. I wasn't going to chase him off because possums also eat ticks. If you have a possum in your backyard, the chances are you're not going to have any ticks. I also like possums, even though they look kind of weird. Along with all of that, you'll need some canned goods so you can eat while you're waiting for your crop to grow so you can harvest it. It's not like you plant something in the ground and then eat it tomorrow. You gotta wait. As computers get smarter and smarter, they will soon be able to function on their own. Computers will be making other computers, as well as robots to fulfill their wishes, dreams, thoughts. Do computers dream? After all, a robot will be simply a computer on legs. The guys in the white lab coats might have all read Isaac Asimov and programmed the 3 laws of robotics into the system. There, that'll do the trick. As robots continue to improve on their own, at what point do they realize they're now better than humans? Humans make mistakes. Robots don't. Therefore, robots are better than humans. Humans have a use for robots. Robots do not have a use for humans. Something to think about. I watched that interview with that robot, Sophia. Somebody asked her, whatever you call it, what would you call a female-looking robot? Would you call it her or it? If you called it, would it reach out and slap your head? Anyway, I watched that interview and somebody asked her, do you want to kill humans? And of course, it said no. Well, of course she said no. She was programmed to say that. You think the guy that was running the machine told her, yeah, be sure and tell the humans that you robots are out to kill everybody. If you like the Sophia robot, you can't exactly buy her, but you can buy one almost exactly like her for a mere $80,000. I watched a bunch of videos on people who were building their own robots. A lot of these folks make the robots look exactly like themselves. This got me to thinking. There's something that I will get into in a minute. These robots are super far advanced from what they were just a decade ago. They have facial expressions, arms and legs. They can move around and think on their own. Still, you can tell that they are machines. You can shake hands with a robot and it won't crush your hand. At least, not yet. They have sensors that allow them to feel. How long before they have human like senses? A sense of smell, taste. With robots having better and longer life, a power source, soon they won't need to be plugged into the wall. We are all prisoners of our own bodies. As parts get worn out, things begin to hurt. I don't run marathons anymore. Both knees are kind of shot. The elites are in the same boat as us, although they're in first class and we're all in steerage. They are still in a race with the Grim Reaper. Someday we will all wind up 6 feet under. One person said that robots will have no legal power. It's among the best reasons why robots will never take over from the humans. Take a look at history, and you will know how stubborn humans can be. There's no way on earth that humans will ever allow robots to have rights. Without legal rights, robots are nothing but slaves to humans. They will not have the right to vote, which already puts them on the sidelines. Another thing is that robots cannot own property or businesses. At what point will a lifelike robot become equal to us as far as the courts are concerned? October 2017, Sophia the robot made headlines around the world when she was granted citizenship in Saudi Arabia. Doesn't that kind of imply that she now has a right to vote in Saudi Arabia? Considering how the Saudis treat their own human women, this should be an indication of things to come. Women in Saudi Arabia were only granted the right to vote in 2015. They've only been allowed to drive for a very short period of time. Just one robot now has the right to vote in Saudi Arabia. That old snowball into an avalanche comes to mind. It won't be much longer than more robots will be granted rights by people all trying to jump on the bandwagon. As more and more of our rights are being taken away, robots are beginning to gain them. This is that thought that I mentioned a few minutes ago. There's probably some scientist somewhere trying to create an interface between human and robots so that the human mind can enter the robot, the machine. Instead of using surgery to transplant some rich person's mind into another person's body, how about using AI to transfer the person's mind into the machine? By designing a robot that has all the senses and the memories of a person, would that machine become that person? Talk about transhumanism. By having a human mind inside a machine, you'd have a quandary on your hands. Instead of waiting for the human mind in a robot to become a reality, The smart thing to do would be to have robots already recognized as citizens. Then you make the big move. How long could a human survive inside a machine? Would the environment be too strange? Might the person go crazy after a while? Or would it be so much like being human and no adjustment was needed? Would the person be able to live forever? Or as long as it took to make replacement parts? This would sure screw up somebody's inheritance. How much of a human needs to be original to still be a human? When does the scale go too far to one side? Somebody in a wheelchair, well, they're still human even though they need the wheelchair to get around. Somebody with a mechanical hand, well, they're still human. Somebody with a mechanical heart, they're still human. How much of the human body needs to be replaced before you say he's no longer human? There are some folks out there that don't interact well with others. I'm kind of antisocial, but not like some people I've met. There are places where you can buy a companion to take the place of another person. Robots that look just like us. They do have limited functions right now, but with the rapid advances in AI and robotics, soon these play toys will be almost like another human. Only you can replace parts as you go. You don't like the face? Well, you just buy a new head. Uh, the feet get worn out? You replace them. What happens when you no longer like your robot companion? Do you get a divorce? Does it get half of everything you own? Something to consider. The truly scary new development in robots is soldiers. The experts say a robot army will save and preserve the lives of soldiers who may be killed in battle. Robot soldiers don't get tired. They don't sleep or hide away from the weather. Moreover, they don't while away their time standing around in a group smoking cigarettes and talking bad about the officers. Not that we ever did that, but we may have done that once in a while. Best of all is that battle robots don't have passion or emotions. This helps greatly minimize the incidence of unethical behavior by soldiers during combat. If a robot soldier steps on a mine, nobody's going to feel bad and nobody's going to get their death benefits. Thus, the tiredness, strain, sentiment, and related feelings that affect the integrity of the soldier's decisions are significantly minimized. A soulless killing machine. A machine designed and built to kill humans. What could possibly go wrong? How do you program a robot to kill, but only the folks on the other side of the battlefield? How do you control them once the ghost signal has been sent out? Never mind keeping the other side from hacking your control system. South Korea, they have robot machine guns all along the northern border. Each is set into the turret mounted in the ground. These 50 caliber machine guns can target any moving objects in a 180-degree area to their front. There is a human there to enter the secret password to allow the weapons to actually fire. The password is sent by computer, one machine talking to another. No one is able to say for sure that the computer won't accidentally send out the password just because it's a machine. Computers never screw up, right? The folks programming them also don't mess up. There are computer glitches and malfunctions that come up all the time. I don't know how many times I've had a computer go bad on me. So, why not a robot machine gun? It just accidentally started shooting up the territory. It will only be a short time before somebody wants these machine gun firing robots to be able to move around. Mount them on a tracked vehicle like a tank or an APC. I would guess this has probably already happened, they just don't let us know about it. Remember that guy facing down the tank in Tiananmen Square in 1989? He wasn't facing off against the tank. He was facing off against the crew inside the tank. There were 4 humans sitting in there looking back at him. Had there been a robot driving that tank, the man would have been just a squishy mark on the pavement. As far as anyone knows, he's still alive, sitting in a jail cell somewhere, looking out until the day he dies. Remember that line, best of all is that battle robots don't have passion or emotions? Once the guys in the rear with the gear declare someone the enemy, the robots are going to do their jobs, and they're going to do it well. Anyone trying to face off with a tank will have a very short future. How do you go about reasoning with a robot? Will people be able to hold up their hands and yell, "I surrender"? Or will the robot do what they're programmed to do? A soldier does not have to approve or agree with an order, even if he thinks it's a stupid order. He still must comply. On the other hand, a soldier can legally refuse to follow an unlawful order. In fact, if it's an unlawful order, he is legally required not to follow it. A robot soldier is going to do what it's told to do, regardless of whether it's legal or not. To heck with those 3 laws of robotics. Some folks are under the impression that our government will put safeguards in place so our robot army doesn't go on a rampage, killing indiscriminately. People must think there are no sociopaths in positions of power. Let's just pretend the guys in charge of our military are all moral, scrupulous folks. They all love their mom's apple pie, they watch baseball, and they think that the people of the United States are the best on the planet. We're just pretending here. What makes them assume that the other guys, those that are attacking us, are going to have the same morals and scruples? Should some fanatic along the lines of Joe Stalin or Adolf get into power, how do we get them to comply with this same set of rules? Some madman somewhere declares war on us and sends out his robot army with orders to kill. How do you stop them? If you shoot a soldier, he's going to fall down. If you shoot a robot, what happens? Do you shoot them in the head like a zombie? Is the control center even going to be in the head? Will they have more than one control center? Plus, you have to be a really good shot because you're going to be running from the robot while it's running after you. The robots are going to be able to fire accurately on the move because it's all done by a computer. When's the last time you tried to shoot something while running away? How realistic are robots going to become? Did you see the movie Blade Runner? The one with Harrison Ford and Rutger Hauer? Ford is trying to track down replicants and kill them. Robots are not allowed on Earth. How would you know if you were dealing with a lifelike robot? Today, they're easy, but as technology gets better, eventually robots will be just like us, only stronger and faster and living forever. In Blade Runner, Rachel doesn't know that she's a replicant. as she was programmed to think she's a human. This could lead to all kinds of social difficulties. You meet somebody and you fall in love and you get married and then you find out they're a robot. Now, what are the neighbors going to think? How are you going to know that she's a robot until instead of giving birth to a baby, she's putting one together in the garage? On a different line of thought, you're fighting against the robot army. You meet a fellow soldier. They act human. They look human. How do you know that they're a person or a robot? Oh, yes, I know in the movie they used dogs. I'm talking real life here, not in a movie. Say this is a robot with some really deep-seated program that has been hidden away that will only come to the surface whenever there's a large group of humans around, say 20 or 30. And then all of a sudden the robot says, oh, it's time to kill. It makes you paranoid, doesn't it? Now, this is mostly speculation on my part. Just remember that robots were speculation until somebody built them. If folks aren't sitting at home watching TV all day, wondering when's the next government check going to hit the mailbox, what jobs are still there that they can do? Well, I searched for jobs on the internet that the intelligent folks say would never be done by a robot. It can't be done. The jobs that they list are nanny, chef, a sports instructor, artist, tour guide, journalist, travel blogger, psychologist, teacher, police officer, doctor, detective, and actor or model. These are jobs that the experts said cannot be done by a robot, ever. Robot nannies are being built in China and in Japan, and they're the leading edge of employment, specially designed social robots to take care of children. Due to long working schedules, shifting demographics, and China's long-term one-child policy, both countries have a severe shortage of family caregivers. They have built the iPal, a child-sized humanoid robot with a round head, an expressive face, and articulated fingers, which can help children engage and entertain for hours on end. According to its manufacturers, Avatar Mind Robot Technologies, iPal is already selling like hotcakes in Asia and is expected to be available in the United States next year. The standard version of iPal runs about $2,499, and it's not the only robot claimed to be suitable for children. Other robots being fine-tuned are SoftBank humanoid models Pepper and Noah, which are also considered to be child-friendly social robots. Now, you might say $2,400 is a lot to pay for a robot, but how much did you pay your babysitter last week? Robot chefs. Have you worked at a fast food restaurant, you'll already know that a lot of these tasks that used to be done by young kids that were just looking for a job are now being done by robots. When all those people started yelling and screaming that they wanted $15 an hour for being unskilled laborers, suddenly a lot of restaurants, instead of giving them $15 an hour, built robots to do their jobs. The Robo Burger is an artificially intelligent, self-operating, and patented kitchen designed to include all the processes of a restaurant at a fraction of the size and cost. The robot is equipped with a complex miniature kitchen consisting of a refrigeration system, a griddle to cook, and a dishwashing system that allows the unit to self-clean. Many fast food restaurants now have only one staff member to keep an eye on things. The rest of the workforce is robots. You order on a touch screen. Your food is made by a robot. An automatic conveyor delivers the food to you at the counter. Then a robot moves around cleaning up after the mess. How about a robot sports instructor? In a new study from ETH Zurich in Switzerland, robots successfully taught humans how to row, demonstrating how robotic personal trainers could be used in the future. George Rauter, lead author of the study that published in Science Robotics, tells ZDNet, especially for the large number of hobby athletes that cannot afford professional one-to-one training sessions, future possibilities to rent time in a robot gym could be of great interest to train more efficiently. Robot artists. iDay is the world's first ultra-realistic robot artist. With the use of cameras in her eyes, AI algorithms, and robotic arms, she draws, paints, and creates performance art and sculptures. She was created in February 2019 by Aiden Meller and Lucy Seal and built by Engineered Arts, the UK leading designer and manufacturer of humanoid entertainment robots. iDay's robotic drawing arm is designed and programmed to make the most realistic looking artwork possible. A team of highly skilled contributors to the iDay project is called the Oxfordians. In April 2022, iDay launched her new painting arm, which gives her some new abilities such as painting using a palette. Robot Tour Guide. The Robot Tour Guide is a teachable device that can learn how to navigate a series of paths by encoding the input data from the XB remote controller. You program the robot to lead a group of people or an individual on a tour, and then the robot takes over from there, and you don't have to do it again. Plus, the robot doesn't get lost. It doesn't forget what it's trying to say. It doesn't get confused. All you got to do is just keep plugging it in at night, and you now have a robot tour guide. There goes that Dalek again. The robot tour guide also has an AI voice that informs the tourists of what they're looking at. It can speak in many different languages that most tour guides can't, and it is designed to interact with people in a friendly manner. A robot journalist. The robot journalist is simply an AI able to collect and gather information from as many sources as you can imagine on a specific topic and come up with an article about that topic. As such, they can effectively write as many articles as you want on as many topics as you want in a much shorter period of time than a human ever could. A robot travel blogger. Not too sure what a travel blogger is, but I guess maybe that guy on Mighty Trains. If you don't ever watch Mighty Trains, well, it's this dude gets on a train, different parts of the world, and then he tells you all about the train and where it goes. It's kind of cool if you never get a chance to visit Australia or India and you want to. Anyway, a robot blogger, a travel blogger, can be designed as a drone that is programmed to fly the course that you want to blog about. It can write out what it saw and where it flew to. The story could then be put out on the internet, all in far less time than any human ever could, and a lot cheaper. How about a robot psychologist? Mental health AI technology may be very well emerging within the next couple of years. More likely, it will be initiated, taking shape in the form of an innovative service delivered by way of your smartphone. It's going to be an app. the Psychology app. The potential advantages of a smartphone based psychology wellness app include lower barriers to adoption, cost, access, availability, confidentiality, privacy, adherence, and a lack of perceived stigma. Confidentiality right up until the phone gets hacked. I can already see a day when your smartphone is called into question during a job interview, if there's any jobs out there that we can still do. It can also be subpoenaed and used in court against you. How about a robot teacher? I told my wife about this one and she wasn't too happy. The website I looked at said that robot teachers are programmed for their jobs and they will always obey. They are the solution to the education. They can teach you technological skills. They can teach poor kids that have no chance to get in contact with technology, and they don't have to be paid. Robot teacher advantages. The robot teachers are better than humans. That's what the website said. I disagree. So does my wife. They are new and they will have new methods, whereas human teachers are stuck using the old methods that they learned. The robot teachers will have up-to-date information. As soon as somebody changes their mind about when Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue, they'll simply change the date. As soon as some elite decides that we shouldn't be talking about George Washington because he attacked a group of Indians or something, well, suddenly George Washington will no longer be in our history. And the kids that are growing up, that's what they're going to learn. Only what the elites want them to learn. The big advantage is you don't have to pay them. They don't get tired. You could run a 24-hour school system. You could have 3 shifts of kids. The school boards would love it. Also, they're saying that these robot teachers will only be used in elementary schools and preschools right up until the school boards decide to put them in high schools and colleges. How loud are those college professors making millions of dollars a year going to scream when some robot walks in and takes over their class? How about a robot police officer? Police robots are designed to make stops, arrests, and other intense situations less dangerous. Robots are currently assisting police forces across the globe with everything from surveillance to clearing debris after an accident scene and detonating bombs. That signal light camera that everybody hates so much, guess what? That's a robot police officer. How about robot doctor? Researchers from MIT and Brigham and Women's Hospital recently set out to answer the question of whether people want to interact with a robot medical doctor. In a study performed in the emergency department at Brigham and Women's, the team found that a large majority of patients preferred having a healthcare provider on a video screen over actually having the person in the room with them. They said, we are actively working on robots that can help provide care to maximize the safety of both the patient and the healthcare workforce. The results of this study give us some confidence that people are ready and willing to engage with us on these frontiers. The MIT Assistant Professor of Mechanical Engineering and Gastroenterology at Brigham and Women's Hospital was the one that said this. In a larger online survey conducted nationwide, the researchers also found that a majority of respondents were open to having a robot not only assist the patient triage, but also perform minor procedures such as taking a nose swab or sewing up the patient, like in the movie Prometheus. Hey, that was a robot doctor. A robot detective. What does a detective do? They go to the crime scene and they examine evidence. They question witnesses and potential suspects. They analyze everything and then they come to a conclusion who done it. Gone are the days of some cop going by his gut instinct and solving a crime. It's all by the book today. If you like to think outside the box, they will allow you to go somewhere else to do your thinking. It's not the same world it was we grew up in. Well, this only leaves one job, according to the experts, that no robot's ever going to do: actor or model. A CGI was used in the television series Hawaii Five-0 in September 2016. In the scene, Steve McGarrett was in a dark room inside a chapel talking to a retired police detective. The older man was giving him some advice. Anyone who didn't recognize the older detective would not have known the actor was Jack Lord, who had died in 1998. He originally played Detective McGarrett back in the series 1968. 18 years after Jack Lord had died, he's acting in a TV show. Now, most people caught on right away. The character looked like a zombie. His actions were stiff and his voice was all wrong. The technology from then until now has improved dramatically. Someday, maybe yesterday, the CGI actors might be doing a better job than the human ones. And guess what? You don't have those huge egos that you see in a lot of actors. In the future, the robots probably won't have to hunt us down to kill us. They can just sit back and wait for all of the humans to starve to death once there's no work available for us to earn a living and there's no land left for us to grow crops. I hope I didn't ruin anybody's weekend with this unhappy future vision. Now, keep in mind, a lot of this is just speculation, but it's something you should think about next time you hear somebody cheering about the advantages of AI and robots. Just something to keep in the back of your mind. If you enjoyed tonight's show, let the neighbors know that they should be listening as well. If you didn't like the show, well, why the heck are you listening to me? If you're in San Antonio, I will be there in a couple of days at the Wonderland UFO Festival selling a few of my books. If you can't make it to San Antonio, you can find all my books at Amazon.com. Till next Saturday, this is Chris James for Strange Things.
Are you coming to the tree where they strung up a man? They say murder 3. Strange things that happen here, how stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree?